This is the temple Wat Athvea from the east. You can see the very large blocks that it is made from. You can hear in the background the tuk-tuk and the children chanting. Let's see if I can climb these steps. Very large blocks. And blocks with projections. This is the Western Gapura. With the dog. Now we'll walk into the central tower. Thankfully here they've got wooden steps to help people like me with short legs. You can see the difference between the sandstone and the laterite. There you can see the size of the blocks compared to the wooden steps. A very large doorway. Here we have one of the buildings, very tall building, set high. There's the laterite wall, the Western Gapura, more of the laterite wall that encloses this central part of the temple, and another building.
Wat Athvea, about 12th century. It's only about 4 kilometres from home. A couple of unique things about Wat Athvea is you'll notice that the sandstone blocks are huge. It's hard to imagine people who were a lot shorter back then having to climb up these steps, and each of these blocks is anywhere from 12 to 18 inches tall. So very large blocks of sandstone indeed. Surrounded by a wall, and behind it is a modern living temple. Another unique thing that we found here is it's the first temple we've seen where there are actually pigeons living in the temple. We've not seen pigeons anywhere else. You still need a ticket to get in here. So we were checked, we pulled up, someone sitting on the sidelines gave out a bit of a yell, and the ticket inspector came over on his motorbike to check our tickets, and rightly so. Just inside there are still a few interesting carvings. You can see here it's quite difficult to get around these big steps. Just as well I've got long legs. There's an active shrine inside, and someone was just in there cleaning it up and preparing it for the day. So the shrine itself is in here. There's a scale, the big steps. Looking out the other side, 2 small buildings, possibly libraries. Into the dark, and wrapped up here is the remains of a headless statue of some sort. Looks as though it's in the Buddha pose. So this temple too would have been started as a Hindu temple and turned into Buddhist. You can see the elephant. Khmer script. And most beautiful but modern embellishments with the lipstick, the Apsaras and the carving. And as with the temples, most of them they have the guards. Not much left, so there's a guard on this side of the door and a guard on this side of the door. You can just see them. And another Apsara. Back outside. That's about all you can see at Wat Athvea. Very big blocks of laterite on the walls, big sandstone blocks, huge windows and doorways, a few ornate windows, and that's about it. Still worth a visit just to see something a little bit different. You can see there that the sandstone's been worn away by the elements. No corners anymore, it's just been smoothed by the wind and the rain. Anyway, Wat Athvea. So out the back of Wat Athvea, we're in the grounds of a modern temple. Quite different. We haven't visited many modern temples yet, that's another project. We've still got hundreds more old temples to visit. But in these grounds, these colourful things here are called stupas, and they've got the remains of people or families, cremated remains, stored in these beautiful stupas. Some of them are quite elegant, so you can only imagine that they were from the rich people or from the significantly important Buddhist people, such as special monks. There's a really big one there. And with a lot of the modern temples, you see on the top of the flagpoles the Garudas, golden Garudas. So this is out the back of Wat Athvea, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like from the other side. So again, you can see the huge chunky blocks of laterite and sandstone, and quite a very tall tower. The outer buildings both obviously have been crumbling, so they've had quite a bit of support built around them. So we'll just walk in through the back entrance of Wat Athvea, and there's a few of those bestie pigeons flying around. Again, look at the size of these blocks. Bit of an effort even for us to walk up them. The laterite wall. And the sandstone gateway. Looks beautiful against the nice blue sky. As in most temples, there are usually 4 entrances through the gates, and here's a small entrance here. Again, constructed of sandstone. Usually they'll have something carved on the doorways. Doesn't look like anything meaningful. And the outer buildings with the false doors. It might look nice and cool this morning, but it's actually very hot. It's possibly about 30 degrees with it feels like 38, so quite humid. It's in the wet season. You can see there the roof still holding its structure. It's built in such a way it supports its own weight. We've seen that in a lot of other temples. But this part is certainly well restored. These stones are too high for me to climb out of, so I'll have to go back through the 10-fall centrally to get out. So here's one of the stupas. Beautiful tall tower with a little statue inside, and each of the 4 corners have these images, and very much like the temples, they have the lions as guards around them. There's no date. It's hard to tell how old this one is, but with the help of Google Translate, this simply says ancestors, Mr. Ta Chun, Grandpa Nose, Mr. Ye Sov, Mr. Kia Sao, Grandma Sem, Mr. Ta Mears, Grandma, Mr. Ka Sao Yok, and Ye Dong Sun. So there's quite a few people's remains inside here, and that's just one of the many. We'll go and have a look at a couple more. A lot of them don't have inscriptions on them, but they're kept pretty well. Been patched up with paint. You can see the families come here at certain times of the year, special religious times of the year or anniversaries of the death, and they'll leave offerings of food, flowers, water and incense for the spirits. Here's a really old one, somewhat neglected. But that's just some of the stupas outside the temple.